on this computer. Perfect. All right, so again, I'm going to go to my Lightroom today. I'm going to hold down my Lightroom button, and I'm going to say take a photo. Gives it a second. I'm going to say I would like to access my photos. I'm going to say, oh, allow access to all photos. I'm going to go crazy. Oh, that horrible picture. All right. So again, we're going to go to our camera. We are going to click on that auto button here. So again, I apologize ahead of time for the side words thing here, but it is what it is. We're going to go to professional mode again. All right, so that's sort of our step one, right, is we're going to always go to professional mode. All right, our focus works the same. All right, if I click on the front here, I tap in my window, I can focus on a piece of cardboard. If I tap on the background, I can focus on the box in the back, the words Dracast on the box. So that's my basic focus. I'm setting my, does anybody remember what that's called? Critical what? Somebody help me out. Ceci, you've been answering all the questions. Somebody help her out. Isabel, you've been doing a good job too. That's a critical plane of what? Starts with an F.
Focus.
Yes, there you go. Critical plane of focus. Excellent. So the first thing I do is I figure out what is my critical plane of focus. What in the world do I want to focus on? I want to focus on these markers. I want to focus on this cardboard up here. I want to focus on this box. That's where my critical plane is. And then I need to decide, well, do I want, if I'm focusing on this cardboard in the front, do I want the rest of that stuff to be in focus in the back? It's, again, artistic choice. So I would set my aperture, traditionally my camera, to capture that. We can't really do that. So for this fake depth of field, we can use this setting right here where it says auto. All right, and what that's doing is that's your autofocus button. And what I'm going to do is by sliding this slider here, there we go. I can see the stuff is starting to turn green. And what that green does is it is sort of establishing what is in focus, right? So you can see how my camera's sort of going in and out of focus. So right now, everything in the background would be in focus, and the foreground would be out of focus. You can even see all the green dots inside that cardboard. So right here, that green cardboard is in super focus, and I can see that there's a few things in focus in the back, but mostly everything is out of focus. I can try to slide up as much as I can and still get the edge of that cardboard, and I'm able to push that stuff out of focus there. If I come too far, it's just going to break, and I can see that those chords are sort of out of focus, because one thing that we'll learn is that your critical plane of focus, right, sometimes you can only get so close to your camera before it cannot focus anymore. Look at that. Man, I get really close with this thing. Right, so you have to try to get as close as you can. It's just sort of like your eyeball. If I hold my hand up to my eye and I look at my hand is in focus, but I can get to a certain spot where no matter how hard I try to focus my eye, I cannot put my hand in focus anymore. So your critical plane of focus has an amount of closeness it can get to the lens, and then it can't get any closer. Usually it can go out to infinity, but it can only get so close to things. So as you're moving your objects, for your close-up shot and your shallow depth of field, try to get your object as close as you can get it. Right? I mean, that's a pretty close shot right there. Right? My cardboard's in pretty good focus and everything's out of focus there. So that's it's kind of a boring object, but that's a pretty close thing here. Or let's try to get this guy even closer here. So focus. Right, I'm focusing here on the foreground, like that, and then I'm going to take my picture. Perfect. There you go. So that's a great shallow depth of field picture right there. I am putting something close in the foreground, and then I am using that that plus or minus, that auto guy over here that we were using, and I'm able to set that focus. For a greater depth of field, you probably don't want to have something right in the foreground, or you may, like if somebody's standing in there. But for the most part, you're going to want to move back here, and like where it says 100%, it's trying to get as much as it can into focus, right? It's trying to work in the foreground a little bit in the background. So you just try to find some common ground here, maybe around there. I'm going to take that picture. And so now I have this one. Oops, I can't scroll through my pictures right now. I have this picture where I have everything in focus, and I had the other picture where I had that shallow depth of field picture. Okay, so that's what you are going to try to work on today. You will notice that on your phones, let's see if this guy has it here. I don't know if my iPad's not very advanced. On some of your newer phones, if you have two lenses on your phone, have you guys noticed portrait mode on your camera on your phone? Some thumbs up out there. Have you guys seen that? Yeah. So what that portrait mode is doing is it's using those multiple cameras and it's tricking the camera into using shallow depth of field. So it's using one camera to sort of use a sharper picture of something, and it's using the other one to create like a blurrier background. So if you have that on your camera phone, you might be able to use that portrait mode to force your camera to also take a shallow depth of field picture. If you are lucky enough to have a fancy phone that has 3 cameras on it, I don't even have, I'm always many phones behind here. I feel lucky just to have one. You will have an option, and that's where, hang on, let me show you, let me see if I can find that video in Schoology. Here, if you remember, I briefly showed you, I think it was in here? Yes. In 1130's exposure triangle here, it says, we saw this video. I think I'm going to have to throw it out of, oh, it came in here anyways, all right. It showed you here some advanced, I think it showed me a commercial here. Let me see if I can find the spot in the video. Oh, maybe it's a commercial. Hold on a second. Sorry.
Hi, everybody. My name's Katrine Eisman. Welcome to Adobe Mac.
All right. Let me see if I can drag this out here. It's not going to let me drag it out. Come on, Katrine. All right. Let me try. Oops. Let me see if I can get it back into Schoology here. Sorry, I'm recording all this too. I apologize. Anyways, in this video, if we could get to the end of it. Oh, here we go. Man, am I old.
Or I can reset everything. And
here we go. This is the,
difference.
So she's going to talk about here briefly. I'm going to share the screen here and share the audio. Hold on a second. See if I can find my screen share. Share computer sound and optimize the video. What she's just going to talk about briefly is you can actually, if you have 3 cameras, you can do something a little bit more in-depth.
The HDR file has captured the light so much better. I mean, we've got brights, we've got darks, and the profile, everything is sort of averaged out. Now, Pro is great. I mean, don't jump up and down while you're shooting, but you can hold the phone steady enough for an HDR capture. So I think that's pretty impressive. That's without any processing.
All right, let's see it.
All right, let's take a look at additional cameras.
Here you go.
If you have a phone that has more than one lens, 2 or 3 lenses, or even more, you can come to your gear icon, come down to technology previews, and turn on long exposure and depth map support. And if I exit this and jump back into the camera, and now look, you have 5 cameras. So long exposure allows you to have an exposure up to 5 seconds. Remember, in Pro, the longest exposure was 1 second. And what this long exposure does and the 1 second in Pro does, it takes multiple images and stacks them together to create a feeling of motion. The classic example is you want to make this what kind of garden, okay?
All right, she's doing long exposure. Anyways, you get the idea. And I don't know if everybody has those phones anyways, but I just wanted you to be aware of that. So as you go to that gear on your phone, you can click those buttons and you can try to find some different settings for your, what do you call it? For your phone. So experiment with it and mess around with it a little bit. So what are you going to do today? So I'm going to have you guys set up your cameras. Again, be aware of the ISO. I have my Lightroom camera here. I do. Oh, it's going to make me start over. You're going to set up your ISO and look at your exposure here. So I'm going to work with this right here, your auto focus. So we're going to mess with that a little bit. And then if you need to adjust your ISO, you can do that. I mean, everything is automatic right now, but you can force it in and out of the ISO. Then what I'd like you to do is take, let me go back out to the right day here. Aperture, here we go. So using your iPad, you're going to make sure you're using the aperture there with your Auto Plus feature in Professional. Move close to your subject for shallow depth of field. Have something close in the foreground. For larger depth of field, you don't have to worry about it. Just make sure the composition is interesting. And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to take 2 pictures. You're going to post on the assignment sheet. So here's the attachment for SP14. You're going to throw a shallow depth of field at the top and a large depth of field down at the bottom. If you are able to record the f-stop, you can do that. Otherwise, the camera's not really going to show it. So you can do that. And then in your in the media album, you'll see right here it says SP14 aperture, post your 2 examples. This is where you'll post your 2 examples of those aperture pictures in there. All right. Let me stop my recording.